start recording on both of these. So thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out this morning and then for letting us be in your house for the past 2 days measuring. This project will end in a documentary, exhibit boards at UWM. It'll also be posted on the website too, so everyone will get to hear your story. And so thank you.
You're welcome.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions before we get started? Thank you for doing the consent form, and we'll make copies so that you all have a record of both the audio and the consent release.
That is fine.
Okay.
We don't have any questions.
Okay. We like to get that recorded just so
Okay. All right.
everyone knows we did everything. So before we start, if you can say your name, age, occupation,
Okay.
and today's date, and we'll do that for each of you first so that we know that this audio belongs to you.
Okay.
All right.
So
Start with me? Okay, my name is Barbara Brown. I am 60 years old. My occupation is procurement manager, which means that I purchase a whole lot of stuff for the sewage district and your drinking water and your sewer water and all that sort of thing. So,
okay.
mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My name is Ulysses Brown. I am 66. I am also retired, thankfully, as of March of this year.
Yay!
Yay! There you go. I did 34 years with the company is known as Ambrosia Chocolate Company.
Okay.
And like I said before, the 31st of March was my last working day.
Okay, and today's the 17th of June, 2014. All right.
Okay.
So the first question we have is for you to tell us about why you chose this house and what life was like when you moved here.
Well, the reason for, I think, both of us choosing the house was that we had lived in apartments before, one-bedroom apartments, and I'm going to mention the one that was really not well for us was Northridge Lakes way back when. Mm-hmm. As I was saying, it was a one-bedroom apartment. There was a one-year lease, and we literally had very little room to put any furnishings. And I think the day we signed the lease was the day that I actually decided that we needed to purchase a home.
I had never been in an apartment. I'm from the South, so I've always lived in a big house. Mm-hmm. So because I've lived in a big house, it was very strange for me to be in an apartment. So it was his duty to go find a house. And he looked, and actually this neighborhood was very, very quiet, and it was a good place to bring up kids. And so we decided to come to this area.
And so you saw this house.
We saw a total of 2 houses, this one being the last one. The realtor that actually showed me this property, I finally left her and said, you know what, I need a house because I'm a big person. I need a house that's got lots of room. And she called me in 24 hours and said, I have one for you to take a look at. And it turned out to be this house.
Okay. And so what was life like in this house?
Oh, wow.
We have a lot of memories.
Well, first of all, when we moved into this house, it was nothing like it is now. It was the 70s, the late 70s. So in the late 70s, you had your green carpet, you had your avocado refrigerators, you had all of that sort of thing. So it was fully carpeted. There was paneling everywhere. So, but it was a place to call home. And a little bit at a time, we started with the wood to bring it back to where it was. And then from there, we just in 2004, 2005, we decided to bring it all the way back. So that's when we took on all the paneling and began to working around, and really we had to have people come in because of the wood and the type of wood it is. A lot of people wouldn't touch it, so it took us a lot of time to find someone to replace to catalog the wood. So we finally found someone, and they had to take down each piece of wood and catalog it each time. So they cataloged it all, they put it all in the basement, then they did all the plaster, because all of the living room is still back to the original plaster and that sort of thing. So it took a while, and we kind of lived out of the house for like 6 months maybe.
Right.
Until
We actually had to move.
done. So it was an experience, but living in this house is small. Like I said, the kids were small, so they had plenty of room to play. They could go across the park at that particular time. You know, there was nothing that you couldn't do and wasn't afraid for your child to be outside and that sort of thing. So it was very nice.
I guess mine is a little different. It was all her fault, first of all, for the remodel. And it started with the bathroom on the second floor. We had decided that she had come up with an idea to change everything but the clawfoot tub, and we were going to keep that. But we're going to change colors. We were going to redo the walls and so on, and that was the start. And the wife decided, since she did the bathroom, the hallway was just a total mess, and we had to do that next.
That was true.
So it was like the drop ceiling and the paneling came down from there. That was where we actually had scaffolding on the landing, and we had to crawl down in the mornings and bring our clothes down and dress down here for about 3 to 4 months. Then there was a break in the action. Okay, so it was like, okay, are we going to stay in this house or are we going to move? And we decided that it was the point we were going to actually stay, and if we were going to stay, we were going to do a total refurbish of this level, the first floor. And this, again, as the wife said, took place in 2005. This was where they took everything down to really the studs, in this kitchen in particular. So we really could not stay in the house. We had to go to an extended stay and stayed there until the dusk settled. And from there, it was an ongoing process. And I give my wife all the credit for this kitchen and a lot of the designs that you see here.
You said there was a break-in, or were you?
No, there was a break in our remodeling plans.
Remodeling plan. We had to
Right.
live sometime.
Yeah, we had to. Yeah, I was like, do you really want to do this again? So we decided we did.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got married here?
Yes.
We actually were married in this
We
house.
actually got married here in what?
No, I'm gonna let you do that.
82. So
Yes,
we got
that-
here married in 82. We actually bought the house in 76. 1976. So we stayed in here 6 years, and we really didn't start remodeling until after 82. So it took us a while, because at that particular time, I mean, the cost of living was quite different. We were very poor. So it took, we had to take family first. And when everybody moved out, we decided that, okay, it was our time. So it was basically, it was a fun time. We've had lots of parties in this house, because our house is the biggest house. The family always take our house as the party house. So nobody cooks anywhere else but me. So we have a good time. So at least once or twice a year we have a party. We have a Mardi Gras party once a year, and then we have a card party during the summer. So it's nice.
Okay. And so what does the Mardi Gras party involve?
It's involved about 20 different families, 20 different friends, 2 of each, and we cook. We do gumbo, we do jambalaya, we do all of the southern type foods.
Red beans and rice.
Louisiana, so we do all of that. We do the andouille sausage. We just have a good time, and then we bring out the mass and we do the Mardi Gras thing, and we sit down and we have fun. We make cakes. I guess my best cake is the caramel cake with pineapple filling, and everybody loves that. So it's a good time, and we sit down and we eat until we can't eat anymore, and we play cards.
About
and
3 o'clock in the morning.
people leave about 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's and that's during like the winter time. So, but this year we decided next year we decided to bring it out of the winter because it was so cold last winter. So we'll probably do it in April next year. And then our anniversary is September 4th, so around the Labor Day weekend, my nephew and his wife will come in from Alabama, and we'll have another get together because their anniversary is the same time. So we'll do that all at one time, and we'll have a good time then. So they just bring their friends in from Alabama and all around the country. So we just have a good time.
Okay, so what does it smell like, sound like?
It is from the front of the house to the yard, people. It is good times. There's music. There's going to be bring your own, if you will, whatever you're drinking. And we'll supply the food and the rest of the goods for you. So come as you are and leave your name, and we'll see if we can put you on the guest list. How's that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Okay. So you raised both the kids here?
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
And did you stay here? Did you always stay here, or were you ever thinking of going to another house, another neighborhood with the kids?
We thought, well, it wasn't because of a issue of concern about the safety of the children. It was a matter at that time, keep in mind there was paneling and there was drop ceilings and everything, and we thought we could probably find something better. And I looked at a couple places. As a matter of fact, I looked around what was then known as the Capitol Court area. I thought that would be better housing. And I would always come back with the feeling that it didn't have a certain thing that this one had. For example, didn't have the wood, if you would, the wood trim. It didn't have the larger rooms. It didn't have something that held me back. Right.
That sort of thing. We really like wood, so we like the texture of it. We like it to be shown. We don't like it covered. We don't like it painted. So most of the places that we have looked at, did look at, wood was painted. We'd have to start all over, and the wood was not painted here, but it was varnished. And in the early, I'd have to say 50s or 60s, they always did a dark varnish on the wood. And so we had to scrape all of that off to bring it back to the natural color that it is today. So we did not want to go through that again. So every house that we saw didn't have the character that we were looking for. So and it didn't have the room, really. I mean, this particular building, it has a character on it, of itself outside. I mean, most of the houses we saw, they were smaller, boxed, or that sort of thing, and we didn't want to do that, so we stayed.
Okay. And so, tell us about this neighborhood. Has it stayed the same, changed since you moved in?
I
76?
can probably speak about the neighborhood going all the way back to my childhood. Would you believe it or not that across the street, let's say roughly up until the 50s, that was the original zoo. That is where the Milwaukee County Zoo was. And if you go back in history, there was actually small craft planes being landed in the parkway. There was the concerts on a constant basis because they have the band show over in the part of Washington Park. The neighbors here were very cordial. We've had large snowstorms. I mean, snowstorms where we were actually encased in the house, could not get out. But the alleyway, there was a gentleman that would come through with a snowplow, and for $10 for the whole year, he would clear the alleyway. So it was a close-knit neighborhood, and 41st had more of a tie than it does today with 42nd, because those were all homeowners, as well as over on this side at 42nd. That has changed dramatically over the years because there have been different investment groups that come in and buy up a lot of the properties for investment purposes. So that's where I see the change from then to now.
Okay. And what is it? Has that lot always been next door?
No, there was actually a duplex that was known as 21, 14, and 16 North 42nd Street. About 12 to 15 years ago, it became kind of unrepairable, and the city deemed that it should be demolished, and that's what they did. So that is the reason for the vacant lot.
Did you buy it?
Love to purchase it, going all the way back to the day they tore the building down. The city refuses to sell it to us. We're working on a couple things with different groups and everything to have an alternative where if we can't buy the lot, we can beautify the lot. and we would get some help that way. So we're going to see how that develops.
Okay. What was the reason that the city gave you?
There were numerous reasons. The first one that they gave was, even though the property owners were probably foreclosed or whatever happened, they still, according to the city of Milwaukee, had rights to the lot. And therefore, if the city attempted to sell the lot, there might have been legal action that would have been taken with the previous owners.
And what would you do with the lot?
Actually, we widened the yard for, selfish reasons, making more space for really moving outdoors in the summertime and putting furniture out there, cookouts, that sort of thing.
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras, card parties, right. So yeah, it would enclosed. It would be completely enclosed. And we'll see if things change with that development of the purchase of the lot. Yeah.
What do you love about being in this area?
I am a homebody, so I just like to be, I like quiet areas. I like to play my video games and sit down and just be by me. I am not a socializing neighbor, that sort of thing. But what I think we like about the neighborhood is it's close to the freeway. It's close to things that we need to get to. If we want to go to a play or a show, we don't have to drive 100 miles to get there through the snow. If we have his sister and my sister are close within a 5-minute radius, so if we need something or they need something, we can get to them right away. At this particular point in our lives, we've gotten older, so we don't want to go too far. We just don't. But my husband is a party animal. He probably want to go a little farther than I do. But for me, it's just that I can sit in my backyard. I can read, I can do whatever I want to do and not be bothered. So that's pretty much what I like about the neighborhood.
One of the things that convinced me about the area was, and this happened some years ago, my car broke down. It was about 20 minutes to 6, and I was scheduled to be at work at 6 o'clock downtown. I told him I was going to be late. And believe it or not, I was able to go across the street by Washington Park, grab the bus, and I actually got to work 5 minutes earlier. So it is definitely the convenience of the area downtown, Miller Park, just to name a couple of things, are so close that this is one of the major reasons for wanting to be in the neighborhood.
Great.
Yeah.
So if we could step back a little bit, and if each of you could tell me about and compare this home and raising your children compared to how you grew up in your home.
That's a good question.
Okay, well, I'm from Alexandria, Louisiana. So in the South, you're pretty much raised by everyone. So my mother was just my sister and I, but my mother raised many children. So there was always children around. There was always a big house, big yard. We could play. It was a very close-knit neighborhood. Everybody, you were supposed to speak to everybody. You were supposed to say good morning to everybody. You're supposed to say yes, ma'am, no, sir, that sort of thing. So it was a little bit more, what should I say? You had more respect for your elders than you do at this day and age. It was nothing to see a child being told he was right or wrong by anyone, and no one would say anything. Same thing within school. You were punished. No one said anything about you being spanked in school, that sort of thing. I mean, you were wrong, then you came home and you got a spanking. So it's a big different. Life is a lot different than it is today. Nobody can dare, call the cops because you've been spanked, okay? But in those particular days, I have to say I had a wonderful childhood. I respected my parents. My mother was the one to be afraid of. My father was not. But the thing is that I grew up knowing that that was the way life should be, and that's the way we pretty much brought up our children. Pretty much the same. I could just look at them and they would understand what that look was. I mean, you didn't have to do anything. So I guess my husband pretty much said I was born in the Bible Belt because that's what we did. We went to church every Sunday, and you went alone if you had to, but every Sunday you went to church. So it's quite different because you had I could walk a long ways by myself. No one would bother me and that sort of thing. But today it's quite different.
From a northern perspective, I was born and raised in Milwaukee. So the neighborhood, I'll take that back, that I was raised in was like this neighborhood was when I first moved into it. That meant that the neighborhood was integrated. There were people of all different cultures. We had a family business on the corner of 6th and Center. The community, it was more of a community thing where, for example, when I went to high school, it was nothing to go past different shops and stores and see the high school basketball and football schedules posted in the storefront windows of the different neighborhoods. So you knew that North was going to be playing West Friday night, 6 o'clock, just by going through the neighborhood. As children, there was no curfew because nobody really acted up. Because my folks had a restaurant, I was able to stay out 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with my friends, hang out as long as we were right in that proximity of about a 2 or 3 house span. And we did that all the way up until I left home. Disciplinary wise, yeah, we pretty much echoed the same thing because my parents are from the South as well. Equal opportunity when it came to discipline. So nobody was let off the hook when we were wrong. And I appreciated that. I got my teachings basically not from school. I did go to school, of course, but from my parents at home. My dad was the first one to tell me such things as never rent, always own your own, get an education. And he instilled in me, just by the way he did with work, the work ethic. I have seen him go to work 7 days a week, get up and run the business, and he owned a third business beside that. Anything to provide for the family. So that was pretty important to me right up to the very day.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
So you said it was integrated when you moved in. Tell us about that change.
It almost like it happened overnight. For example, my neighbor to the east of me was Hispanic. My neighbor across the street were white. The neighbors a couple of doors down were Jewish. And we just got a cross section of people that actually were in the neighborhood. You knew their first and last names. Everybody had a name that we could use as a nickname to go by. And it was really, really great. So I actually thought that I learned from all of this by being with this type of environment. Today, the change is that people are not as outgoing. You don't know your neighbors' names. They're going to be here today and gone tomorrow if they are renting, pretty much. And that kind of puts a damper on a lot of things that you can do community-wise. So I kind of feel sorry for some of the children that go to school that might not be going to the same school next semester, next year, whatever, because they're moving. And that has affected the neighborhood as well.
So to go back, you said the change happened overnight. Where did those families go?
Well, there still is one original family that was here before we were, and they're 2 doors down. They were in the neighborhood, and that's the Hispanic family.
Right.
So they're still here, and we're still here. I think we're the only 2 originals on this block, except for the family across the street in the greenhouse over there. It's a duplex.
She
as well.
probably came in a little bit after we did.
Yeah,
right.
but it's still 3 original families in this neighborhood. But to the right of us was a family of mixed family. The mother was
Oh, yeah.
black and then the father was white, and they had 3 boys.
Right.
And they moved away. They had a mother-in-law, and she lived at the bottom of that house. And they moved away to another neighborhood. And then the people across the street, actually, it was his grandmother's great-grandmother that he inherited that house from across the street. Very nice little house. And he kept it for a while, and then he moved out to the country somewhere. So, but the neighborhood was pretty much older people at that time. So, and then, like Joe said, that we have the investors that came in, and the different duplexes they rented out, and you never know who's coming in and who's going out, sort of thing. So that's basically what happened. It wasn't quite overnight, as he said, but it gradually changed. It just feels to him like it was overnight. It was not.
Right. There was a series of events that also took place. For example, we always say that you don't know who your neighbors are now. You know who a few of the neighbors are, but there was a lot of people who, I'll use the term, were absentee landlords. Mm-hmm. So when they bought the properties, they really were in it just for the rental fee. And there were really very few guidelines as to how many people could stay in the homes. And this became kind of a problem because, again, now if you didn't know your neighbors before, you really didn't know who was staying in the house. So that also added to some of the negativeness of the change.
And so the draw of the suburbs never attracted you?
Yes, it did.
It attracted him. It didn't attract me. My thing is I like to be close to work. Right now I'm about 15 minutes from work. And all I have to do is hop on the freeway. I don't like driving a long ways, especially in this type of environment, because you never know what Wisconsin weather is going to do. So I like to be close. So inner city has always been something that I prefer.
When I say yes, it did, it was like I have relatives that stay in some of the outlying areas, and you would go to their houses and you see these big, I'll call them mansion-like properties and everything, huge backyards, waterfalls, the whole ball of wax, and I'm going, why can't that be me? Why couldn't we, do that? But then having said that, I know how a lot of these houses were constructed. And that meant that there weren't the wood floors that were down there. This was plywood that was covered with carpeting, or it was an engineered floor later on to kind of update everything. So, and last but not least, the distance. In 2005, my mother became ill, and she was out in Mequon, and I was trying to go see her, and believe it or not, we had a huge snowstorm. The snowstorm caused me not to be able to get out there for 2.5 hours on the freeway. That was kind of the deal breaker as far as ever wanted to move out in the outlying areas. So.
Yeah. So coming back here, Mr. Brown, you mentioned that this place you want to have people see the potential here. Can you talk more about that?
There'll be a few photos that I can show you where, when we walked in the door, it wasn't exactly the way you see it today. For example, we mentioned carpet colors. We mentioned it was paneled. The kitchen, the ceiling was actually dropped down probably a 1.5 to 2 feet. All of this was kind of like a drab setting as far as I was concerned. But I think we both were able to see that beneath all of that, there was actually something that we could actually bring out with not only the way it was before, but add some of our ideas to kind of bring it back up to what would be a very comfortable and enjoyable place to stay.
Anything to add to that?
No, he pretty much hit it on the head. We're just happy with what we have accomplished here, and it's just we like to relax and have fun, and it just does it for us.
So switching gears a little bit, so you both worked nearby here?
Well, let's go back a ways. Actually, Yes, as a matter of fact, I had to think about when we were living where we lived before. I was actually in the downtown area. Like I was saying, I was working at Ambrosia Chocolates. Um, I'm trying to remember where you were. Oh, you were working downtown as well.
Yeah.
She was working for what was known as Stella Cheese Company. So everything was kind of in that
It's now
downtown
Universal
area.
Foods, or Cynthia now is what it's called. now.
right. And it,
So we were pretty much close. The jobs that we've had since we moved into this house have been pretty much wherever we are. It's been within a 15-minute area. I work at Jones Island, so I have to go. It's actually Baysview, which is where the water treatment plant is. So, but on the freeway, it only takes me 15 minutes to get there because it's the home bridge, and you're just there at the plant. So, what's great about the location of the house is that, like you said, we can go to ball games, we can go to just about anything downtown, all within 15 minutes. So it's a good way to get, good place for where we are right now.
Okay. So Milana talked about before that students will see this and hear about it and know about the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a story that they should know.
Oh. Do
Multiple
you want to tell a
stories.
story? My husband is a great
story for
storyteller, so
time.
let's see.
do you want this related to the house, or do you want it
Anything.
related to?
Anything.
Be careful.
Let's see. Okay, I will do this one. This is a funny story, and it's a good story, and my wife probably doesn't remember it. We moved out of our rental place, and we were actually able to move into this house with the use of a 1965 Chrysler. All of our belongings actually went into that car when we moved in this building. Our belongings included a stereo receiver with no speakers, a waterbed that disassembled, and we reassembled it up in the attic. In other words, it didn't take a long time to move in. How's that? So, yeah, I would say that was probably one of the unique stories. And we moved in December. We weren't cold because there wasn't a lot of stuff that we had to go back and forth to the car for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he dumbed down that one, but okay.
Well, wait, tell us the real version. Come on.
I can pretty much tell you, back then, I think I was making all of $6 an hour, and maybe what? 12.
I was probably
maybe.
making between $10,000 and $11,000.
Yeah,
a
you
year.
gotta remember. Considering now, that was nothing. Okay, he actually got this house with his VA loan, so which was great, and it made it affordable for us to have it. So he always has this deal where we laugh because we go back and we look at the pictures, and he called us. I had a coat that I came from the South with, and he always called a red fur coat because it did look like a red fur to him and that sort of thing. So it was. We had literally nothing.
We had nothing.
Didn't, and we build up, but we had a good time building up.
Yeah.
And at one time we had one car
When it
between the
worked.
two of us.
When it worked.
And I think the funniest thing that ever happened to me is that in the 70s there was a bus strike. And that was the one time that I worked over on 60th and Douglas. It was
Right.
Perlman Brothers.
Right.
And I couldn't get home. I had to walk from 60th and Capitol home because he was working at South Shore. So it has not all been fun and games.
No.
We did what we had to do. And plus, I had to pick up my son from the it was Curtis then, but Curtis was over. What is that school? It was it's a school now.
Yeah,
but it
no,
was
I can't think of it
way
either.
over there, and I had to go and. Somehow I had to pick him up too and bring him back, and it was, and sometimes you just had to do what you had to do to get where you had to go. We did not mind walking, if we had to go to work. That's the difference between the generation now. You have to have a bus, you have to have a car, you have to have something. We did not have to do that. We knew that we had to eat, we had to pay the bills. So if I had to get up at 5 and had to walk and go to work, then that's what I did. So it was quite different, but we didn't sacrifice anything. We ate good. If it was chicken every night, then we ate it every night. But we ate okay. It was. Right. I found innovative ways to fix things. So. But we were nowhere near where I am now today. I had not finished college, so it was quite a different thing. So, and we went to school. As a matter of fact, we did go to school in between with the kids going to school. So it was. Yeah. We have had an amazing life. We really have. We have had an amazing life. We laugh about what we've done and how we got here, and how he was able to retire, and we're okay. So it's just been great.
Here is a house-related story, and Dwight probably doesn't really realize this either. We were talking about how poor we were, and I bought this house. I won't tell you how much I paid for the house, but it was not that expensive compared to today's standards. But I was at the closing, and I found out at the closing I did not have enough money to close the deal. And the lady who was my real estate agent, Miss Florence Pianchi, Stefaniak Realties back in those days, she looked at me and she said, "I will loan you the $250 so we can close this deal. Pay me back whenever you can." We did everything we could to give her money before we did anything else, because without her, this would have never happened. Right. Yeah. This would have never happened.
And they don't do that now. You go to a closing, you don't have any friends. You just,
you're all alone.
So it's we've met some amazing people. Yeah. People have helped us out. We have helped people out. It's just the more I think about it, it's just been very, very good. Very good.
So tell us about your children.
Well, we're going to visit one tomorrow.
Right.
She works for the state. She travels a lot. Matter of fact, I think she's been in every country on the planet. Just about. I think her last assignment was Cape Verde. And she's a daddy's girl. And my son is more a mama's boy, and and he's in Milwaukee, but they're happy. They're doing their own thing, and we're just happy for them. We're not taking care of them.
They're out of the house. How's that? Yeah. Like I said. We deemed their success on, I guess, what came through us, and we got our success from our parents. So it's hopefully an ongoing process. And like I said, a lot of that had to do with the things that took place here in this very house.
So if you can, I like what you just said in terms of you got the success from your parents and they're getting it from you. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure everyone would understand what you mean by that. Can you explain more?
There is a deal where I think children and parents have to be together at some point in a home or a place, an abode, if you will. And what it is that there has to be that time with the family. I learned so much from my dad. Hopefully he learned some of the things that I did, as long as my sisters and all of that. And what you see in me, a lot of that is my parents. And hopefully when you see our children, you will see a reflection of us. And this all came with dinners, trips, different outings. We've had parties in here for them. We've had Christmas Day in that very living room where they would open up gifts and we would just take photos and just get the reaction of how the children were. It was an event where, and we don't do that anymore, where we would bring, it had to be a real Christmas tree after a while, where everybody got a chance to put their little decoration on it, okay? These are the things that are the memories that will never, ever leave me anyway. The trips were special. We've been to Canada, California, all of these places that we probably would have never thought about going because they like to travel. This is the end result.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
So I know Milan and Godson have questions. Want to make time for them? And speak a little bit louder because our side's faint.
Alright. I have a question in particular for you because you mentioned how during the South, living in the South, everyone was more so open and it was more so communal. So how do you think that the North has shaped you to become more so a homebody, or?
Probably so, because in the South, you know everybody. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows that you're your mother, who your mother is, and if you do something wrong, then they know where your mother will reprimand what you're doing. So it's like here, I don't know. You don't get to know people because they don't have that closeness. I mean, when you walk down the street in the South, I don't care who you are, and you don't have to know the person. You're going to say good morning. They're going to say good morning. They're going to say, how are you? And they're going to say, how are you? In the North, if you say something like that to somebody, they look at you like, okay, what do you want? Okay, it's a different type of mentality. But at work, I'll do the same thing because they don't have any choice but to say good morning to me. So they'll do it. But I did have one guy actually in a training class complain. He says, I don't like to say good morning and I don't like to say how are you. And the first thing I told him, I said, well, that's just too bad. I said, because that's how I was raised. If you don't like it, you don't have to say anything. I say, but I have given it my effort to say something. The North, I mean, what bothers me a lot is that when you see kids and they come down the street and you're sitting there or you're walking right by them, they never say anything. It's like, okay, you don't exist. It's not the type of environment that I was brought up in, and so I think a lot of it is because I don't want to put myself in a predicament. I just don't do it. So, but when I go home, there's a whole different thing.
And another question I have. I was just wondering if you guys could tell me some stories about the parties or your wedding being held in here, because a lot of times weddings are
well, I'm gonna tell you, my husband was late for his own wedding in this house.
Well, we don't.
Okay, so if you want to get funny about it, freaked me out, okay? Totally freaked me out. I was upstairs and everybody was down here because actually the dining room can hold about 50 chairs when everything is out of it. And so we had the whole dining room with all the chairs in the dining room, and we had formed an altar in the bay windows there and moved everything out. So it really was nice, and my sister got all the flowers and stuff. And his best friend, they've known since they were 8 years old, and still he's the godfather of his daughter. They were late. I don't know where they went. I mean, I'm sitting here, you know, the minister's here, and I'm screaming upstairs, and everybody's looking at me. Where are they? Where are they? And then they come in the door like, oh, okay, we're here. It was just, and for some reason I was nervous. I had no business being nervous. I mean, we had already lived together 6 years, but I was very nervous. And everybody was trying to calm me down. So it was really hilarious after a while, and we all laughed about it. And then we just, because they were known to be, they like to go out, and they like to do dumb stuff like most guys do. They do. And I don't know what they did, but they would never tell me. So, but when they got here, it was like, okay, it's on. It's on. We're gonna get this wedding done, and then it's over. We're gonna have a problem. So. But, and then we had a wonderful caterer. Matter of fact, she made all of these dishes. We had a whole Southern meal, chicken, green beans, sweet potatoes, all of that. And everybody, we had people, our yard was totally different then too. Because the walkway came across the yard rather than around the yard now, and the garage was smaller. So it was a lot smaller, but we had people, and we had a cherry tree. What was it? Cherry tree
What's
and
in the
something
bag?
else. We had a couple of trees, and then it was very, very nice because everybody had different areas they could go to, and in the kitchen, because it was not an island. We actually had a glass table that we had for quite a few years, and everybody sat around. So it was very, very nice, way.
We can show the photos.
Yeah,
of those, so.
yeah, it was nice. And my sister and I, and this is the outside of the house. This is how it was back then. The what do you call this? The siding was much wider because that was the original of the house, and you can see that this is the paneling on the house, and this is the living room as it was then. So it was very nice. It was very nice, but I think the opening was. I thought it was going to go all wrong because he wasn't showing up on time, and he finally did show up, and everything went well.
Here,
How late were you?
3-5 minutes.
Oh, that's
Something
not
like
true.
that, no.
It was about
I don't
15, 20
remember. It's been
minutes.
so
Okay, it
many
was
years
late.
ago.
Okay.
But anyway, the other thing that we can add to not only the weddings, but we've had festivities where our families have come from out of state, like for Thanksgiving, and we've had upwards of 50 to 60
Oh, yeah.
people.
50. Mm-hmm.
Here, we would do Milwaukee one year, and they would literally bring food in to join up with our food that we were preparing, and we were feeding those people with plenty to spare. I mean, it was always going to be more than enough food for everybody to enjoy. The next year, we would go to Chicago, take food down there, and do the same thing. We did that probably for a good 10, 15 years.
At least.
And so, yeah, they got to know our house, we got to know theirs. So
That's great. And so all those smells, what did that?
she would start.
I'm gonna have to invite you here for
Right,
smells,
right.
okay? Because even now for Thanksgiving, or if I'm cooking for Thanksgiving, I usually start 2 days in advance. I have to do the desserts first. I have to. If I don't do the desserts first, then it messes up the whole everything else. But I usually start with a rum cake, which can be mixed with brandy and whiskey or whatever. But it's a rum cake, and I have to let it sit for a couple of days. Otherwise, I'm responsible for all the people that's leaving the house, and they're not quite right. So I need to make sure
They can't drive. They cannot drive. The desserts include banana pudding, caramel cake, rum cakes, as she was saying. There's
chocolate pecan pie,
Right.
and so I do all of the pies, all of that stuff first,
Right.
and then I go into the turkey or the chicken and dressing, and from there I may do greens or green beans and potatoes or sweet potatoes or macaroni and cheese. So once I start cooking, I just cook for the next 2 days, and then we have food everywhere. We just have food everywhere. And then when the family comes in, all those smells together, it's like picture yourself in a room full of dressing and greens and all of the onions and sweet potatoes and the in the South we have what's called a trio of vegetables. You always cook with your celery, your green pepper, and your onions, and that's those smells, all those smells together. And then you have your Creole seasoning that you mix together with different spices, all of that together, and you just have a nice smell. It's like smell that you never forget.
So to sum it all up, when you come into this kitchen, probably every hour in the hour is going to be a different aroma coming through. This time you're smelling the sage from the dressing. The next time you come in, you're going to be smelling the poultry seasoning from the poultry or the ham. You're going to have pineapples, cherries as some of the ingredients on that. The desserts, I'm usually going to be banned in here while the desserts are being prepared for whatever reason.
Quite a bit.
But we have had no less than about 12 to 15 desserts on that cabinet in the dining room alone at any given time.
Yeah.
And we more than welcome people to come in and enjoy what we enjoy preparing.
And they take a lot of food. Yeah. We cook a lot, and we try to make sure a lot of it is gone because we don't have any place to put it.
Nice.
And so it's real good.
Thank you. Godson?
Yes, I had one question. You guys alluded to the fact that you grew up with really strong family ties and parents disciplining you and being able to carry that on through your own children. Do you think that sense of community and fabric within families these days are the same, or are they lost?
Not so much lost, but everybody has a different philosophy. Okay, you probably don't believe when your children come along that you should spare the rod, for example. You have to make a judgment on how far should a child, and we do emphasize child being somebody in their development years, be disciplined. Is disciplining going to a corner, or are they repeatedly ignoring your wishes and saying they're going to do whatever they want to do, which will in turn make you have to make a decision on how to handle the situation. We were not abused. There is a big difference between child abuse and being disciplined. And we can tell stories and we laugh about them now, but the long and short of it is that if it wasn't for my parents, I probably would have been in jail. I probably would have never enjoyed some of the successes that I enjoyed because my goals would have been limited. And I owe it all to the way that we were raised.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I know with my parents and the way they were, it would have been no other way. My mother was very strict. If we were going out, there had to be a reason we were going out. There had to be a chaperone when we were going out because it was just me and my sister. There was no boys, so her girls, she protected her girls, and anyone that was going to make a difference in our lives, she would know about it. She'd make sure that we were not in harm's way. So I know on many days, even as a child walking to school by myself, there was someone along the way, every street, that knew where I was at every given time. Otherwise, I mean, the term that says your mother can see eyes in the back of her head, I mean, there was truly eyes, all right, but they weren't in the back of her head. They were along the way, so they made sure that you were safe when you went from one area to the next. So I appreciate my parents for doing that. I love them to death for doing that, to show me that the right and wrong way to live, because it helps in life to even give that to other people that really don't have that opportunity or know how to live, to show them that there is a way and hope and a way to do things.
Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Brown, I have a question for you too. Your first name, it's a really strong name. Do you want to tell me more?
Strange, you said?
No, strong.
Oh, strong name. Oh, okay. The story goes that one of my dad's sisters' husband, at the time that I was being born, told my mom not to give him a common name, and it had to be something that would stand out in the crowd. Well, because of Southern ties, they gave me the name Ulysses, Ulesses. And when I came to school as a kindergartner, the kindergarten teacher interpreted that to be, Ulysses, Ulyesses. It stuck.
And he changed it to Ulysses.
And I had it changed to Ulysses.
Oh, so you started out as Ulysses.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Because I was going to say, I've been pronouncing it.
No, you're right.
No,
You're right.
it's,
So yeah, that's how I got the name.
Maybe this is a weirder question, but you mentioned you like video games. What type of video games do you like to play?
oh,
Every time.
my husband, I am into Farmville, Cityville, Farm Sage,
Candy
Farmer
Crush.
Heroes, Candy Crush. I am the kids were raised on video games. This house have had video games since Atari.
Mm-hmm.
Atari. My
Television.
sister is an expert at Miss Pac-Man. And she's close to 70, so I'm pretty much telling you that we play video games. It's an everyday thing. We're on the phone every day. Whatever you're at, you need to send me this. You need to send me that. Yes, Facebook crazy games. That's what I use Facebook for, games, and it keeps me active. And I will not have Alzheimer's. I'm just positive that's not going to happen because our daughter got us into what is it?
Oh, luminosity.
Luminosity. So it's a brain game.
This is a brain game.
So we want to make sure our brains are working, and so we play that as well. So
there are different exercises that you can do on a daily basis, and that is the only one I play, by the way. I don't use to play any other game. So
yeah, he's not a game person,
right.
But
Do those games come up and like during your parties?
huh?
Do the games come up during your parties? Like,
Oh yeah, well, we have a whole network of people with games. Yeah, yeah, games. And we the guys are more television oriented
Game is
for
on.
what is that? Baseball, football, that sort of thing.
Basketball.
World Cup.
Right.
We got in the World Cup when we went to Portugal. So, and we were just stunned at everything being shut down. We went in to have lunch, and people looked at us like they were going to kill us because we were in there for lunch and they were trying to watch the World Cup. It was really funny. It was funny. I had never experienced it before, so we really gotten into the World Cup here lately, and I know it's going on right now, so we kind of watch that and baseball and stuff. So that's my quality time with him. Have to have that quality time,
So when you signed up for the field school, what were you thinking it would be?
That's a good question because I think I was the first one to actually be contacted by United Methodist. And they said, and I will paraphrase this. I talked to Brittany over at United Methodist, and she said, if you don't do this, I'll be very disappointed. And, and I said, well, she said, I have a question that I would like to ask you. I said, well, yeah, ask, go ahead. And she came in and she said, the field school is doing houses. They're looking at houses that are around 100 years old or older. And would you be interested in letting them come in and see your house? Yeah, And then when I asked her after another visit, so I said, all they're going to do is just come in, take a look, and go. She said, no, there might be some measurement or something involved in it. I was like, measurement? Yeah, they'll probably measure outside. I went, oh, sure, okay, yeah, no problem. So I got kind of a different view from talking to Brittany versus meeting all of you. And I have to say that it struck a curiosity because, number one, I didn't quite understand measuring for what, but then after going to one of the sessions, I found out that, we're trying to find out historically what these houses look like then versus today. And it kind of piqued my interest as well. So.
Okay. And the interview part, did they tell you about that?
I think you did.
Oh.
This was the first time. They said that there was going to be some kind of documentation. There would be a type of a documentary, if you would, based on whether the house was meeting the criteria. No problem there. And then I think after we talked, you said, we're going to interview you. And I went, fine. So this is where we are today. We're sitting here interviewing, and I must say it has been very enjoyable.
Great. Well, these are the stories that we will work to get in the history books, but now that we have the internet, we can preserve these.
This is great.
For the next generations.
Fantastic.
So, is there anything else that we didn't cover or you'd like to share?
No, I think we've covered pretty much enough.
Thank you for being open.
We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you very
it was
much.
great. Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Okay, well, do you guys have any other questions before we...
I just have one more. So, how do you think the homes being built over there, how do you think they're going to affect the neighborhood?
I'm glad you asked that. I believe these homes are being donated with the work of Habitat for Humanity. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they can complement rather than come up with a newer idea about how the homes in this neighborhood should look. In other words, there's a way to build a newer home, but keep some of the traditional look, if you would, of the neighborhood. So quite interested in seeing what that's going to look like.
That lot has been vacant for about at least 20 years at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I forgot what it even looked like.
There was
At some point.
one gentleman actually had an old 53 Oldsmobile in the garage that he used to work on in one of the houses over there. After he retired, he moved on, and I think he moved down to Arkansas. But we're talking, that lot has been there since the early 80s, vacant. So
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. That was a strategy in the 80s, just to tear down the house and
correct.
Mm-hmm.
put
That's-
the lot there.
One thing I want to quickly add, the idea of restoring the houses, I think me and my wife actually got when we went to Montreal, and we saw something that really piqued my interest at that time. We're talking about houses that were upwards of 300-400 years. And some of the buildings in the downtown area, they had these big scaffolds up and everything. And I noticed that they kept the exterior intact. They gutted from the inside and updated everything in there, and they kept the historical value from the outside. That was one of the things that really influenced us to come back and try that.
Yeah, because you can't get the same wood.
No, you cannot.
And you said the insurance would. Do you have 100% replacement insurance?
I do,
Yeah.
and I think the story that you're alluding to was when I first bought the house, we had one of the insurance companies come in, they took a look around, and they said, we can't insure the house. And I said, why can't you insure the house? They said, because of replacement value. Said if we had to rebuild this house, it would cost us more than we could actually afford to really do it the way it is now. And so it took some doing, but we found the correct insurance company. We've been with them for years. So far, so good.
Oh, great.
And you know, when we updated the areas that we put wood, we try to get the wood grain and as close as possible to the regular wood, even in the kitchen where it flows very nicely, because the wood, the type of wood that's in there is no longer, I think it's extinct or no longer available,
Right.
that sort of thing. So when we did the kitchen, I wanted to make sure that it was something very close. It's still oak, but it's never going to be the type of oak that it was before. So it turned out okay.
Great. Anything else to add?
No.
I think we're glad that you came to our home, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yes, definitely.
Thank
We'll
you.
definitely
Sure.
leave us
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
information.
Welcome back
and
anytime.
Thank you.
Have you guys over? I know you're college students and you may be starving. You don't ever have to starve here. You don't ever have to starve here. You can call me at
There you
any
go.
time. I
There you
cook.
Awesome. So I will turn off the recorder. I'll keep this one on as we flip through
Sure.
the photos. This is the production quality one.
Okay.
Like Beyonce uses it or something.
Is she on there?
No. Okay, so I'm going to.
It's between, what would be I know the southern boundary probably would be like what is now called Winnebago. It used to be Juneau. And to the north, it would have been around Walnut Street. And what they used to do, not only did they have produce, but they used to have at least 3 or 4 barbecue places that were down there. The first one that comes to my mind was Black King, Speed Queen, and the third one was Kenner's. And they would all go down there and you would get whatever. Up in now we're getting away from the Haymarket, but if you go like around 10th and Summers where Wonder Bread used to be, there was Wonder Bread on one side of the street. I worked there in the summers when I was in school. And across the street was Jaeger Bakery. And next door to Jaeger, there was a potato chip company called Mrs. Drinks. And you could go in and get all of their day-old stuff. You get it by the bag full, And we would do that as a weekend treat. The dad would pack the car and we'd go and get all that stuff. So, yeah, it was totally different. It was like, this was the one section of town that had predominantly black people. To move to Center Street, when my dad moved in 1955, was classified as moving way out.
Whoa.
Yes, way out. Funny story, before I met my wife, I was dating this young lady, and they moved all the way out to 45th and Villard. And because I didn't have a car, I had to take a bus, and you would go so far on the bus line, and then when you reached this line, you had to pay a zone fee. You had to put an additional nickel in because you had gone out of the zone. So yeah, I was thinking I was at the end of the earth when I went all the way out in places like that.
Yeah, all the good stories to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live long enough, I guess. So yeah, enjoy the book, you know.
Do you have like photos of just like of the area around here when you were younger and stuff like that?
Okay, to really be specific, I'll give you a little history of this neighborhood. Most of the black people, as I said, they live between, let's say, from the downtown area up to, when I was growing up, possibly Center Street. Center Street was, that's the sun. Center Street was your probably a pretty decent area to live in the 50s and 60s. To come over into this neighborhood, I used to take music classes at Wells Street Junior High, which was on 18th and Wells. If I came into this neighborhood, I was usually stopped by the police, wanted to know what I was doing over in this neighborhood. And you would have to quantify where you were going, where you lived, and et cetera, et cetera. So it was one of the reasons when I found out where this house was, I kind of had a second thought about it, but then I noticed that the neighborhood had definitely changed, so.
And see, as you can see here, this is where this house was here.
Oh,
At that
that's,
particular time
yeah.
when we were married, this house, there was a house next door.
A duplex?
And as you can see, the house at this particular time, right now you got vinyl up there. This was actually what they call a sheet metal
Where are
type
you now?
stuff. The remember the sheet stuff? It was like gray
Oh yeah,
stuff.
in other words,
so
it's almost like a
corrugated.
waffle board
Yeah,
design.
waffle board design.
and,
All of that was under
That
there.
was all sheet metal.
Yeah, all sheet metal. You can see that this is the original how the porch was, and that was changed. And so these were like poles on the
Columns,
original
yeah.
porch,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't have the.
We had hedges on.
Yeah, we didn't
From the
have.
porch.
But we didn't have the porch. For some reason, there's no porch there. I didn't remember
There's a
that.
porch there, but again, it's not.
No. I'm talking about the railing on the porch.
No,
Look,
we did not. In other
We
words,
didn't have any sign in it.
you're right. In other words, hedges, and then there was like that pipe type of
Right,
deal
right.
for
I
you.
didn't notice that.
Right.
Okay. It's been a while.
And so, one of the things that I'm looking at for my dissertation is incarceration.
Mhm.
Has that affected this neighborhood, Milwaukee's high incarceration rate?
I'm going to say that, and I can't speak from fact, but you know, we all have relatives who have relatives who have relatives, and at some point in time, somebody has been in the justice system. So when people get out, they do need a place to go and live. And a lot of times people will be sympathetic that, oh, well, I'll bring in nephew, cousin, grandson, whatever, and stay with me until they get on their feet. So yes, there probably is some evidence of that,
Okay.
Oh, we had hedges. I forgot the
as
hedges.
I was saying.
Yeah, I had hedges. Okay, we had hedges. How did I forget that?
You must have taken them down a while before.
Oh,
Yeah,
many moons
we
ago.
took those down because when the leaves fell, that would be the first place to find all the
Oh,
leaves off the
my.
trees would be in the hedges. So.
That was work.
And then and not only that, bees would end up in them, and it was horrible, you know, and you never know when you was running out the door what you were running into, what type of insect. So it was good they were gone.
Oh wow. Well, thank you. So we'll flip through this
Please
and
do.
set up the scanner here
Okay.
Mhm.
and devour the brownies.
Oh, absolutely.
And Milan's taking full headshots of you all.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
So I guess where would you like to be during that?
I'll let her, being the professional photographer, to choose a spot of her choosing.
Well, is there a place that you guys especially like to be? Is there
You want to
one
do
that-
dining
I'm
room?
upstairs, he's downstairs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
right.
like to be here.
Dining room, I guess, would be the meeting point. So,
Okay.
That's why the house is so big.
Yeah.
You get to be wherever you want.
Options.
I don't know how that
There's
light
lots of
is. You
options.
got enough light. And we're gonna do the window seat.
There's plenty of light in there. Just open up the curtains if we have to.
Is the table always set like that?
Yeah. It's always set like that. When we have a party, then it comes apart. And it's also longer. So there's another leaf nip because we serve about 12 to 15 people. So this is just the shorter version. So the room is very long. So when you have that,
Yes. I know you're granted. Come on, bro.
so you, I was just telling them how long the table is. So I can get at least, and plus we turn the window seat into a setting as well.
Right.
Let's just capture this part when he went past there and his friends got arrested for riding their bikes over there. And like now I'm like, it's just
Yeah, it was different because again, even though you had integrated neighborhoods, you did have certain areas where there was a restriction. So
I'm sorry, I just.
okay.
Maybe don't need the flag.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, I think this one's pretty pretty.
Maybe
We can take another.
I would maybe do it in front of the cabinet too.
That's what
Okay.
I was thinking.
Yeah, because you're.
They're professional.
Sure.
It's going to confuse you because of the light in the back.
Yeah, that might be it as well.
Okay.
Oh.
See, they have
I'll take
ready-made,
one more.
ready-made smiles.
Yeah. All right, cool.
All right. Did it?
Thank you.
All right. You're more than welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, cabinet.
I'm gonna add you on Facebook. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the cabinet, Mila?
Yeah, I'm gonna get separate ones like.
Some of these dishes are older than we are. My mother, have my mother's set of dishes, and we
There's some wedding gifts hidden in there
wedding
too.
gifts in there as well.
Right.
But these glasses, I have to say that these glasses are about 70 years old.
Just those.
From my mother.
Those.
Yeah.
Do you guys set this frequently?
With the etching.
Well, we actually take it apart when we have a party because
Yeah. This is the
this
smaller
last
version.
one is what did we do last? I forgot what we did last, but anyway, it was like there's not enough room at the table for all the people. So we've got an extension going into the dining room set, and there'll be little tables and chairs all over the rest of the area. So
We have at least 2 different sets of card tables because there's always
Gotta
2
be
different
cards.
sets of games, and
got to bring out the old school music. Got to
Yeah,
bring out
so,
you know it's wall to wall until you decide that you've had enough and you want to go home. We never kick anybody out. She usually goes to
well,
sleep and leaves
usually the
everybody
patio is
down.
set up, and
You
the
know,
patio is set up, especially during the summer, and so a lot of the younger crowd will go outside,
hang out.
and
Right.
the older crowd will be inside. But,
Do you have the surround sound in the back too?
yeah,
See,
well,
I
we
like-
have.
No, but we have I just got the toy
music
right there.
system
No,
for the,
this right here.
yeah, we have
I
a music
bought
system for
yard.
the backyard as well. So yeah.
We actually bring this out.
For your iPod.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Serious docking system.
So it's got pretty good playback ability. So
Okay, great.
we take that out in the yard and they can have their type of music whenever they're ready. And we'll do the rest of it in here.
I have
Yeah.
put doctors for
These-
this
these are really
area.
nice prints.
These actually, just for your edification, you know what these are.
Everybody has been fed.
Well, now
through
Let me
this.
turn the
They're
light.
butterflies.
Absolutely, those are
Yeah.
butterflies.
You know, I've been more than happy.
But I didn't see that before.
I never had.
That's impressive.
Yeah, the wife actually got those made and everything when we started the remodel.
Okay, she had them made.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my sister
That's really
was,
great.
she would just
So she actually put those on, and tradition where she won't take them down now. We used to do the parties and take down the mask, but this will be our second year that we've actually kept them up. So
Yeah. Well, they're nice. I mean, they're festive. Might as well have the party.
every day,
Every day.
right? Yeah. So,
That's great.
so this is it. This is where we've decided to call home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful. All right, so we'll start scanning, I guess.
Go right ahead. Feel free.
Make sure we get photos of those too.
And let me know and give me all your information. Send me an email.
We can leave all of our information too.
Oh, great.
Appreciate it.
There's also the Mardi Gras, whatchamacallit.
Oh yeah, I'll take a picture of that.
And then we'll take a picture of these workers.
Here's the business card if you need to give me a call.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oops. Here, you guys can write yours here too.
I know the sign.
You have actual business cards.
I'll write it down here too.
Excuse me. Come on in.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Is there anything else you need to do?
Dad, can you wanna? I think you can stop that, and then we'll.
Right, buddy? Let's get